Hey, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Today is September 11th, 2021. It's the 19-year anniversary that I first arrived on Vancouver Island. And when I arrived, it was a shock that sent me in a depression because what I hoped wasn't true was true, that people were the same over here. And so I just focused on my own personal development and kind of helped ground things and set the pace that, this is who I am and this is my journey. And I wrote, and I had various counselors over time that confirmed how I got better every year and that it was pretty amazing progress, surpassing the norm. And I'm not talking about the norm only that, we're receiving services, but the norm in general. And it kept going after I surpassed the counselors, I believe. And some were nice and some were not that competent, and there was a few. And you take what you can get out of the personal development that is offered that you can afford, and you also take training so you can do the same for others for free without having to receive a paycheck to help others. So for me, I've been posting a lot of vlogs. There's some I'm not even finished recording. There's just lists and lists of things, and some people think that I'm a failure in a lot of ways. And the thing is we're all born with the same DNA, and our brains got quite a challenge, right? Our brains were kind of a new thing that was tried out by evolution, let's say, and they didn't come programmed the way they were supposed to, and it's not an easy thing. So we could never ever succumb or indulge in intellectual laziness, and yet this is what has been happening more and more when the opposable thumbs we used was made sometimes to make our lives easier and to become like addicted to consuming and to become chauvinistic as a species. I've worked with a monkey in South Korea, and I tell you, she has opposable thumbs on her four limbs, and but even the ones on her hands, and the observation skills she had, I could tell surpasses most of the people primates that I've met in my life. Watching her study, not behaviors, patterns, the lock on the gate, I knew she could escape using her opposable thumbs, and the observation she could do with her eyes in ways that far surpassed many of you with PhDs. So, or that have $10,000 worth of tools to operate with your opposable thumb. So I know that I had to reset how to evaluate intelligence in many ways. You would say, well, she's in a cage. Well, a large percentage of you are in a cage, and some of you don't even know it, that you're good little domesticates who succumb to intellectual laziness and never acquired the human thinking tools. So when it comes to succeeding as a human, which I admit is not easy, with this brain to actually mature into itself, self-actualize with a human operating system, it is not easy. It is much harder to learn than most other species have to learn. So that was our disadvantage. But I mean, you guys turned intellectual laziness into an art form and a science of its own. How to, get away and with it and have everybody agree, because they're all participating in this cult of intellectual laziness that amounts to you crashing the last of your proto-civilizations, because now you used your opposable thumbs and your great wisdom to destroy yourselves and most of the rest of the biosphere. So it's not very nice to have lived and observed this and come to realize these things. So in this 19-year anniversary, again, I mean, I have to go with my own judgment on who's a failure and who's a success as a human, becoming human. And again, I get a lot of feedback or even non-verbal communication where it's just, well, if only you do this, this, this. Well, that's to make you feel better about your failures. I feel pretty good about my successes. And it's not supposed to be easy at this time of history to succeed in becoming human, because it is unorthodox, it is uncommon, it is so rare that I have not met one person that I can verify would have the same types of conversation as me. And And it's weird. It's weird that you believe that you are succeeding at being you, and that it is not cruel what you are doing to your kids, which is teaching them earlier and earlier how to enslave themselves in systems that will soon be crashing. So that's pretty nuts. But anyways, I'm very proud of myself, and the byproducts of that is poverty, it's solitude. You don't know what being alone feels like at the levels that I do. And of course, it is shocking feeling this alone, but it came over time with different realizations. It's not like suddenly, my plane crashes on a desert island that nobody even knows exists and I'm alone in that way. It's not a big trauma where I had a big family and friends before. It was gradually done. But I tell you, the sense of being alone is most of you guys couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle the reality of the things that I've had to come to realize and I've had to work on, so as to have a decent balance up here and be so far from the norm that you guys look at me like I'm from another planet, and that you guys are less and less able to realize who is an honest person, who is not an honest person, who is a sane person, who is not a sane person, who makes sense, who doesn't make sense, when you're right or when you're wrong, when you've made an assumption or it's actual reality that you can measure with your senses. You are so confused with this. I tell you, it is kind of really hard to work with you guys. But I'm here again, eh? Little Martin is on the island again, and he's trying to be of service and documenting all his attempts, which is like an 80 hours a week job if you include also surviving every day with all the obstacles you throw in the way of somebody who refuses to sell his humanity away. And I can see these red flags come in, and I keep trying and I keep trying, and they hurt less and less, but it still only hurt.